Heyo, Weirdos. It is Thursday again. I'm Mackenzie, and I'm joined, as always, by...
I'm Sarah.
I'm Kris.
And this podcast is for Weirdos.
Hey, Mackenzie, what are we talking about this week?
So this week we are talking about a side quest adventure that we did. This was originally supposed to be a birthday extravaganza edition for Sarah, to round out March's birthday madness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't go.
And then she couldn't go.
Scheduling, and then you couldn't go, and
But
then
anyway,
I could go. And
we do have a special guest with us today. You'll hear more from him later. Woo woo.
So, in February, Mackenzie sends us a link to this event that's happening. It's about seances. And it's like, there's going to be information about seances. They're going to do seances. It's going to be a really cool thing at the League Kempner House.
Yes.
And I immediately went, hey, let's do this. And Kris went, I have a thing that weekend.
Well, we were originally going to make that the birthday bash.
We were going to do that instead of doing the regular birthday thing. We were going to do this instead.
Sarah was like, we can do everything else, and then we'll do this.
That.
We'll do this.
Yeah.
And then Kris was like, I can't go. I have a thing. And I was like, totally fine. Mom, do you want to go? And
And
Mom was like, sure. Buy the tickets right now.
And so basically Sarah and I went, sorry, Kris, we're going to go.
We're going.
oh, you know, I was gonna be like, have fun.
Which is hilarious because what ended up happening was Mom and I had not a great week that week. And so on like Thursday, I texted Mackenzie and I was like, hey, I'm going to send you the email with the tickets. Take whoever you want. We're not going.
I then tried to ask every one of my friends that are not y'all, which I don't have that many, that are also local. Like, if I could have summoned our friends from Austin, I would have done that. I couldn't.
Yeah.
If I could have summoned, our friends that are also listeners, I would have done that. I couldn't. And one of the girls that I had thought about taking, she was going somewhere else. I had asked Kristen, and Kristen had a field trip in College Station, so she was going to be in College Station.
It was very last minute.
And I texted some people from work that I was like, I think this is up your alley. Let me ask. One of them was like, thank you so much for thinking of me. I don't fuck with that. And I was like, thank you for being honest with me, but like, I love you. So I just wanted to like offer this thing. Yeah. And then one of my other coworkers was like, I would totally go with you. I'm picking my parents up from the airport. And I was like, ah! And so I was like, Harrison. Because I asked Harrison when the thing came up. I said, hey, we're looking at getting tickets for this. This was before Sarah and Mom went, we're just buying tickets.
Right.
So I asked Harrison.
One of the things was I was like, it's probably limited.
I
don't want it to sell out.
And it did.
Because it was also incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
For what it was. It was $50 a person for... You get a tarot reading, you get to participate in a seance, and there's snacks, and...
Yeah, like there was a lot.
And you can tour the house. Like, it was very, very cheap for the event that it was, which Kris and Mackenzie will tell you why when... they actually talk about it.
So I had asked Harrison, and what had happened was Sarah and I had been texting, and I had gone to do, because Sarah goes, hey, I got tickets. And I was like, oh, thinking that it was just for Sarah and Mom. I was like, cool, I'll go. Because I was doing this at it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. Like it was first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I ordered these tickets while I was eating breakfast.
And so Sarah goes, I was like, oh, let me go order mine. And Sarah goes, no, I got yours. Like, don't pay for another ticket. And so then I told Harrison, I was like, hey, if you want a ticket, I can get you a ticket. And he's like, well, I don't do this. And I was like, okay. Because at first he was like, oh, so you're just going to go do another thing without me? And I was like, do you want to go to a seance? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, well then don't bitch at me.
It's not that I didn't invite you because I don't want to spend time with you. It's that I didn't invite you because you're not going to go.
And then Sarah is like, hey, we can't go. This is what's happening. And I looked at Harrison and I was like, will you please just go with me?
Hey, guess what? You have to go now.
And Christopher was supposed to be gone. And on Saturday morning, Kris posts a Snapchat story, not for like us, for other friends of his to be like, I have now hurt myself. I can't go to the event that I'm supposed to be at. So if you were intending to see me at this event, I'm not there. And I swiped up on that story and went, do you want to go to the seance with me tonight?
And then Kris promptly texted me and went, I just want you to know I'm going on the seance thing, and I was like, I don't fucking like. Great, amazing. Like, I was like, that's totally fine.
And then Kris was like, do you know how much walking we have to do? And I said,
right.
I don't think it's much.
You know, because my fear, my number one fear is that I was going to show up and it was going to be a fucking walking tour, like
Right.
the one that we just talked about. I was
Right.
like, I'm not hoofing it across the island.
Right.
Right.
No. It was only in the house.
Yeah,
Right.
It was only in the house. Now, so
I do have a
Harrison,
wheelchair you can borrow.
Harrison and
Right.
Kris and I go through, and I was like, it's just around the house. There are stairs in the house, but we will just make sure if we're going up, we're only like once we're up, and once we're down, we're down. Like we won't do.
We're
like,
not going up and down.
We
and up
won't
and down,
go.
up and down.
I was like,
we're not doing that nonsense.
I was like, I can go up and down a bunch if you need me to, but like we will just go up once and down once. And
Yeah.
so
and like I brought a cane and I brought
Yeah.
yeah.
cane. It was an axe that was piece tied.
It was. It is an axe that is a cane.
So we get to the house.
It's like a sword cane.
And the
Exactly.
thing to know, so also it had been pouring. So on Saturday, because I was not the purchaser of the tickets, I was like, I sent a text to Sarah and I'm like, I know you're not coming because it was pouring and Galveston was flooding because
Yeah,
it always
right.
floods when it rains.
I know,
I
that-
texted Sarah and I was like, if you get any kind of message that they're canceling tonight's event, just let me know so I can tell Kris.
Yeah.
And Sarah's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you if something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, because they were really good about emailing. Like I kept getting emails like, "Hey, your event's coming up." Blah blah blah. Like,
Oh, good.
For like I think a week before they were like, "Hey, don't forget this event's in a week," because I bought the tickets like a
Months,
month
yeah.
in advance. And so it was like, "Hey, this event's coming up," and I was like, "Yeah, I know. I already sent the tickets to someone else."
But so
not
I had just done the generic. Please tell me because it was pouring. Like
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
can't drive to the island, like please tell me. So we pick Kris up, or Kris meets us at our apartment. We get in the car and we pull up. The thing to know about the Lee Kempner house, it is a Broadway Beauty historic house, and it's a really pretty house. It is under active renovation right now. We weren't sure what that meant before we went, and we get there, and there are steep stairs up to get to the house, and I'm like looking at Harrison. I'm so glad Harrison was with us because I was like, Harrison might have to carry Kris up these stairs. He didn't. It was fine, but
Piggyback
like,
that boy.
but like, there was part of my brain that was like, because there were like one side, once you got to the top of the stairs, one side of the porch had like plywood on it, and I was like,
You know, I got up to the
Okay.
top of the stairs and I was like, am I gonna fall through this?
yeah, we were like, dude, I was like, okay, it'll be fine. And there were people much larger than us that were
Oh, yeah.
walking around, like everything was fine. But like with his cane, I was like, shit.
You know, I was like, God damn it.
So we get in the house and they tell us, they're like, I showed them the tickets, and they were like, great, you can, there are snacks in the kitchen. You can walk around anywhere that you want to walk around in the house. At about 7, we'll ring a bell. We'll do this like quick little lecture, and then we'll get you guys started with your seance and your tarot readings and kind of go through the thing for the evening. And so it's so humid. Thankfully, there's a breeze, and they have all of the doors open. Because it's under restoration, they can't open all the big windows the way that they're
Right.
supposed to, which if they could have, it would have felt perfect in that space.
And there was no AC.
And there's
because
no
it's
AC
under
because it's under
restoration.
restoration. So we were like, and I had made the mistake because we weren't sure what restoration meant. We thought it was like, maybe it's just like under repair and there's still AC. And what if it's cold, because sometimes they keep places that are being renovated really cold.
You know, because I figured this is a historic home. They're going to keep it very cold to preserve everything in there better.
No.
Wrong. I wore pants and
It was
boots.
so hot. I was in a maxi dress.
Idiot.
And I had talked about wearing a cardigan. Thankfully, I didn't, because I would have melted. And there were people, because it is a Victorian era mansion, there were people in full Victorian dress. And I was like, I don't know how you're not on the floor right
You know,
now.
like all of the mediums and tarot readers were all in
Everybody
Victorian.
was in full Victorian.
I will say, if the ladies were in like bustles, that keeps you cool.
Well, not them. They were in like very things that would keep you cool. I'm telling, like, people came dressed up in things that were clearly like hot.
Warm.
Gotcha. Okay.
I go upstairs to evaluate the 2 rooms because we're like wandering around, and I'm like, let me go do stair reconnaissance.
Yeah.
So I go up the stairs and I see the 2 rooms and I'm like, thankfully the stairs were not like, it was like just the right step height. Like they weren't too shallow, but they also weren't too high. So getting up them, once we were going up them, Kris was like, no, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and it was a nice wide kind of curving staircase. So it was an easy up. Easy up, easy down, and their railing was in good shape, so he was able to use the railing. And Kris was not the only one that had mobility issues. There were other people with canes and stuff like that. So they ring. We like wander around the bottom floor.
Harrison and I go look at the backyard.
Yeah,
out
Harrison
on the
and Kris
porch.
go look out at the porch while I'm doing upstairs reconnaissance. And then they ring the bell. They started right at 7. Like, they did a good
they
job.
were very
like,
punctual.
and they gather us all in kind of the front room. And thankfully the front door was open or we would have all just cooked. And they do this brief, and we thought it was going to be long. It was really like maybe 5 minutes. She goes, they introduce the organization and they say, you know, her name was Jo. She's, I think, the vice president or something of the Lee Kempner Foundation. They are a fully 100% volunteer organization. All of the ticket proceeds for that night and any house tours they do goes directly towards renovation work on the house. So like they're trying to get AC up and electrical done and like things to be able to plumbing things so they can like close the house back up and like start doing detailed like renovation work
and like fix the walls, because like a lot of the walls were like
termite and knocked out,
and there were sections that like it had a little bit of wallpaper, but the rest of it was just kind of like so like
drywall, things like that they were trying to do. So and then she went into a history of seance and a history of spiritualism. Very brief overview.
Good, like I think
very
15-minute talk.
Yeah, she did pretty well.
Very good.
And she talked about the Fox sisters and that they were frauds, but
they were.
But she also talked about like seances and spiritualism starting as a church movement and what that looked like, and gave like accurate history to like what spiritualism was and why it peaked and died out, but why it's kind of what has stayed like the through line of it, why it is still something that is done.
Spiritualism is one of my favorite things because you can see like when we need to talk about spiritualism as an episode, but like the peaks of spiritualism is like, oh, there's a war happening. There's a war happening.
There's a war happening.
There's a war happening.
And
it's like Civil War, spiritualism. World War I, spiritualism.
I really like, because she also did a really good job of tying in like suffragettes. Like women's suffrage was a big part in like in spiritualism, and like it goes hand in hand.
Right.
And before
it was spiritualism was a way to give women power.
And then they go, okay, there's 40 of you, so it was a captive event at 40 people. And she goes, 20 of you are going to go upstairs and 20 of you will stay down here to do your tarot. If you're with a group of people, make sure you're all on the same side of the room.
Yeah.
And she said, if there's something you are particular about wanting to start with, move whichever direction that was. If you want to start with tarot, be on one side. If you want to be on seance, if you don't care, pick a side.
Yeah.
And so they got us split. We head upstairs. And just to remind everybody, I'm very skeptical of mediums as a whole. So the fact that I was doing this event was gonna be an interesting thing for at least me, regardless of what happened, because of my belief system.
Speaking of that, do we want to introduce our little boy on the floor?
Yeah.
So we have a friend here. He doesn't have a camera because he doesn't want to be on camera. So he's just on the floor. You're just gonna get to hear his
we'll
voice.
Get him
Eventually we'll get him on camera if he comes in for another episode.
I mean, if you look on social media, you can find him.
Yeah, there's pictures of him. Do you want to introduce yourself with your fun little intro that you have, my friend?
So I'm Harrison, temporary weirdo for the evening, full-time snack goblin, and part-time ghost bait. I've been invited here under mysterious circumstances, probably by a cryptid with a solid sense of humor. I bring strong opinions and absolutely zero expertise. But I did bring snacks for any spirits in the room, so I'm pretty sure we're good.
So that's Harrison.
For those that are
I'm
like
the cryptid that invited him.
Hide
yourself. I'm the cryptid that invited him.
For people that are like, how is Harrison in relation to any of you? Harrison's my husband. We realized we haven't actually ever said that. Harrison is my husband. He is also...
He's my deputy brother.
He is friend to Harrison and Kris via me.
I'm Harrison now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sarah and Kris. I'm tired.
Mackenzie's my wife.
Yeah.
That's my wife.
So
That's my friend-in-law.
My wife.
Yeah, so Harrison is our friend-in-law who unfortunately actually became our friend, so we're stuck with him. Fortunately, unfortunately.
I got the benefit, and they got the downside.
Yeah, we're stuck with them.
Yep.
You got the benefit, and we got the friend.
Anyway,
That's quite fair.
so he's now also here because he was actually present for this event. I was not there. I'm learning most of this as we go. Did you get a tarot reading done?
he did.
He did.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Okay.
I was really proud of him because he was like, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, will you please just sit there? You
Just
don't
sit
have
there.
to.
You didn't
like
have
you,
to.
you
I'm
don't
proud of you
have
for
to
doing it,
believe.
though.
Like that's the thing. I'm always fascinated whenever people who are like ultra skeptic get tarot readings because it's like you don't have to believe it. Like it is at its heart a card game. Like
Right.
it doesn't have to mean anything to you.
Right.
Because that's how my first tarot reading went.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I don't really want to do that. And somebody was like, you don't have to take it seriously.
It can be a silly fun little
It can be a
thing.
silly, fun little thing. We're at a theater event.
And
That person is an actor.
And you can laugh at them.
Yeah,
for
like-
being incredibly wrong. if you
like
want.
it can be silly. And then I sat there and then she read me for filth and I went,
Oops.
what?
So how did you feel going into the event?
Yeah. How did you feel about it?
I am as skeptical as you can get.
Yeah.
100%. Not even going to lie there.
Would you say you're skeptical or that you don't believe in it?
Oh, I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
that's-
he's not
that's
even
the
like
better
skeptical of
description.
like it could be. He's
So,
like
okay.
it doesn't exist.
You
100%.
you do not believe in
Any of it.
mediumship or ghosts or like
Oh, I believe in ghosts.
okay,
I've
I was like
seen-
draw that line for us.
Where's
I've
your
seen some
belief?
weird
Where's your belief
shit.
bubble?
I believe in ghosts. Sorry. I believe in ghosts. I believe in like weird supernatural types of things.
Mhm.
Like things happen. You can't explain them. Whatever. Got it. No
Sure.
problem. I've seen stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
All of that to say, I do not believe in mediums.
Right.
Yeah.
I do not believe that someone can have a stack of cards and feel the energies of the universe and go, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen to you
Mhm.
and exactly what's going to go on. And, hey, you've been feeling this, haven't you? Great, cool. Yeah, this is going to be, don't believe it at all. So
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for drawing that line.
You're
Of course,
probably
yeah.
are you also one of those white men who doesn't believe in astrology?
See, I just don't know enough about it. I'm not
Okay.
going to lie to you.
Okay.
Like, I don't.
He knows his
I
star
will say-
sign.
I will say yes because she's told me like 17,000 times.
Do you remember
'cause
what
I
it is?
No, I don't.
He's a
I
Sagittarius.
thought that he's a Sagittarius. I know that
Yeah.
because I know when your birthday is.
Yep. So, like I said, it's not that. I
Also,
don't
not to be
believe
one
it.
of those white women who's like, of course you're a Sagittarius, but of course you're a Sagittarius.
That makes sense. I believe you, right? But yeah, no, like I just don't know enough about it, so I'm not gonna say that I don't believe in it. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to just even assume and
That
go,
it's not.
"Oh, I don't believe in it,"
Right.
because
Mhm.
I have no freaking idea.
Also,
That's very
Self-aware.
not self like that's a very good place to be because there
Yeah.
are a lot of people who would be like, I don't know enough about it, therefore I don't believe in it and it's not real.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you come at like that is like skepticism. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is what skeptics are supposed to be.
But
And
I won't lie,
also-
there's also like the line where I have talked to people and heard people talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, I don't," and they go into like a 30-minute conversation about like one little piece, and I'm like,
Right.
that might be a little bit too far gone. Like
That's
I see
fair.
where you got there.
we go upstairs. We are in like the second room, is what I will say, because
Yes.
like the back room.
Okay.
So because the first room only had 2 seats left, we were not trying to be.
Not
In
on the
separate
split room.
seances.
So we get in the other room.
Although that would have been interesting.
It would have
if you
been
two had been in separate
fascinating.
ones.
It would have been. I would have been interested to see. I think if we were to do another one, I would be willing to split up because we hadn't
Right.
done anything like it. I didn't want to split
Right.
us.
And I'm not
You
saying
know.
that I wish you had. Like, whatever you did is fine. But, like, if you had split up, it would have been interesting to see what came through.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because I also had never done a seance.
Right.
none of us
None of us
had.
have.
None of us had. This was
I
a
still
completely.
haven't.
This was a
do one.
completely
Okay.
new experience for all of us involved.
Yeah.
So we get up in the room and we sit down, and it is shockingly Harrison is not sitting next to me. So it is me next to the medium's chair, Kris at the corner, because Kris needed to make sure if we needed to get out, he could get out.
Yep.
And then Harrison, and then it was another lady.
Right.
The group of us 3, there were 2
and a lot of them were
younger women on to the right of me, and then the other side of the table there were 4
older women.
Like I won't say very because I was about to say that, but they are
like in their 50s, 50s,
like
60s.
probably newly retired age.
Okay, so like
women.
65 and up.
Yeah.
someone was like
60s.
Maybe like
but
high 50s, low 60s.
Low 60s.
Sweetheart, retirement is 65.
I don't know. My dad just
Like-
retired at
Some of them look like
55.
Right, because you can, but like typically retirement is 65.
Right.
So we're waiting, and we're just kind of like those that came with people are like chatting amongst themselves
But like very, very quietly.
and like whispering to each other. And Kris and
Right,
I are like,
because I'm sure the vibe in the room was we're not allowed to talk loud.
well, and
Yeah.
the medium
Yeah.
isn't in there yet. It's an empty chair.
she showed up and then she walked away, and then like she came back in.
So our medium was technically the one directing people at the top of the stairs initially.
Okay.
So I think she was
Mhm.
trying to make sure everybody, both
Got
rooms
to
were
where they
full,
needed to go to.
and that we probably went down to make sure with the organizers that we were like good to go and came back up.
Right.
And so she sits down and that room had no lights in it. So as the sun went down,
No.
it was pitch black.
Yeah.
And
like
so
some
she
of the
has-
windows were like also boarded up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're doing work. So it was like dark as shit in that room.
God, I
so
love that
she
vibe.
like gets in there and she has her crystal ball
Creepy as hell.
on the table.
Oh my
and-
God.
Yeah, and she
They didn't use the crystal.
they didn't
I don't
really
care.
It was just sitting there.
It's
second
for the
one did.
vibe.
Yeah,
The second one did.
the second one did. She
Well,
had her hands.
But
She
yeah,
touched
yeah,
like
but yes.
touched it, but like they
That
did
was
not
Yeah.
do any scrying
no.
or.
So she's so funny. She sits down
no
and
more
she
smoke
goes,
machines.
"Let me take." She's like getting set, and she's like, "Let me take a quick sip of my goblet of Dr Pepper," which you would have just laughed.
Oh my God, a
up.
kindred spirit.
And
Yeah.
this is Misty. Her name's Misty. We'll talk about her more
Mighty
later.
peppy.
She did
And-
say she was
Peppy.
like, I was supposed to memorize this, but I haven't gotten around to it. So you're gonna have to
Bear
kinda
with
hang,
me.
Hang with me.
So she has to do this like she does this very fun like kind of theatrical
Oh, yeah.
reading of like introing the
Yeah.
seance, and then she has to like reset her energy because she's like, I don't do theatrical mediumship, like this is not what I do.
Yeah, no,
she had to
no.
like reset to be like, and now the spirits can come in because she
Yeah.
had to like reset
Because-
I
herself.
love that.
There was
though.
also
Oh, yeah.
like a genuine like lunar eclipse happening that
Yeah,
night.
Right.
And so like it was a really
interesting
cool,
energy.
odd convergence of energy.
Yeah.
No clue of that.
So she,
I forgot that were there 2 eclipses this past month?
yeah,
I think so.
Because there was also one on the night of my birthday.
yeah, it was
Yeah?
it was another one.
Dope.
So
I remember
she's
because I saw it at war.
she starts and she's like, okay, now let me just like, she makes we did like 3 or 4 big deep breaths.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
she's like, we're gonna all
We're gonna
now
all
breathe
center-
in, and all of us, without being told, put our hands on the table.
Hell
Every
yeah.
one of
No,
us put our
I,
hands on the
I
table.
did not because I saw all of y'all do it and I was like, why'd you do
I saw
that?
everybody else doing it, and I was like, I guess I'm gonna be the part. Okay, cool.
Harrison's
Like,
just
yeah.
along for the ride.
Yeah, no
You
clue.
know the question that when you're a little kid and you say like, well, all my friends were doing it, and your mom goes, if all your friends walked off a bridge, would you? Harrison would have.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Harrison's like, I guess this is
I've
what
done
we're
worse.
doing. I will also do it.
You know,
Yes.
for the like second time,
Nobody did.
almost nobody put their hands on
But
the
the
table, and
first
then I
time-
put my hands on the table, and I tapped like the whole time because I was like,
I
my
crossed
hands
my
are here.
arms.
Now I'm thinking about my hands, and I'm just.
So she, interestingly, as soon as she like we do all of our deep breaths,
Yeah.
she's got a person. And a volunteer had come and was sitting not at the table with us, but like off to
In the corner,
side in
just
the
to like
corner,
monitor.
just to like keep an eye on things, help keep track of time, that kind
Right.
of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about the spirit, and she's very clearly, I guess this is something they teach at the school, is like, is anything that I am saying, is anybody able to like take this spirit, to give me consent to like to know that it's yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who can take this
Who
person?
claims this?
Who
Yeah.
claims this energy?
Who claims this
That's-
guy?
Quick question: is Mike's light on?
No.
We should put his switch
It
on.
is.
No, it's on.
Okay,
he just
so
hasn't
we've-
turned it on.
okay, got it.
yeah.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure
We
that
said there's a
we've-
light, Harrison, and everyone on the podcast. There's a light on the table because
yes.
we have Mike likes to play with the blue light that's behind Mackenzie, but it also is required so that way Mackenzie is bright enough. we have given Mike a little light on the table, and we told him last night when we were doing our business meeting that if he has something to say, he can light
tap
that
on
light.
And
up.
then we'll pause to.
And it's super easy to light up. Like it requires that, like, even easier than turning on that light. So he should be able to turn it on should he choose.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to.
It is
because
on
I
the
looked at
table.
it and was
Right.
like,
yes, I turned it on when we started.
Okay.
So she's like going through, and finally she gets to a bit that the volunteer is able to be like, I think this is my mom.
Because everybody was sitting there going like, I don't know.
This person.
Right.
Like a teacher, like nobody had.
She
this
was showing a
person.
lot of pink, and this lady's like, and gardening and different things like that. And this volunteer lady like is able to identify, and she goes, because the medium's like, she's showing me pink in different forms. Like she keeps
Like a
showing
pink
me
rose.
different pink, and she's like, well, she wouldn't plant roses, but she loved to see me in pink, and like we were
cute.
able to like get there.
Yeah.
And then she gets, almost as soon as that spirit is done and like claimed and moved on, it's like she gets two at once.
Yeah,
and
because we later were talking to Misty, and so we overheard her speaking to her teacher, who was
About
in
it.
charge of the school, and she's like, "I got two at the same time for the first time," and so
she had to basically like separate the energies to identify the people, and like
For everyone's knowledge, Harrison is just sitting here shaking.
sitting
his
here
head.
going,
You can't
Just-
see him, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you're allowed to speak, man.
No,
Speak up.
So it's like, okay. So she started off and she was like, well, I'm getting this. She's feeling like, end of life, like 70s, 80s, maybe
Put your
90s.
microphone closer to your goddamn
Like,
mouth.
you're right. Like,
quit using your hands to talk.
This 70s, 80s, 90-year-old woman, very short stature, doesn't really seem to dress very loud.
Little
She
gray
loves,
dog.
She loves that sound of the chalk on the chalkboard. She's a definitely school teacher vibe. Has that mom type of energy. Probably either a mom or a grandmother. Can anybody take this? And nobody speaks up. And she's like, okay. Well, she also loves to garden, and so she'd probably have a garden. She'd do this. I'm getting a lot of pink, like a rose. Did she like anybody claim this? And the lady kind of speaks up in the corner. She's like, this might be my mom. She's like, oh, okay. So she's giving like a, really all I'm seeing now is just like the pink rose. Like, did you have a nickname or something? And she's like, well, I never had like a nickname like that, and she never planted roses. She said they were just so hard to like plant and take care of and everything else. But she did put me in a lot of pink as a kid. She loved to see me in pink. She said that a lot. And, but other than that, that's really all. Like, she was a school teacher, but I don't know about the whole like loves chalk on the chalkboard and, all that stuff. She also said that she loved when she erased the board because it looked brand new again and all those things. And, she would spend lots of time at the end of the day cleaning the board and being very almost
Meticulous.
OCD about it. Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so this sounds like every older woman back in the day and everything that was a school teacher. Cool. Great. Like, so again, like I said, my non-believing ass is going.
So it was
this
for
is
you.
like,
For you, it was vague enough.
Yeah, this is like
that
this
you
is,
were like, this could be anybody.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I mean,
And
the pink did like kind of throw me for a loop. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
And
like,
my thing, if I had been there, and the first spirit that came through was for another person who worked for the same. Like, I know they worked for different the
Different
mediums were a
organizations.
different organization.
Yeah, I was like, they've not
I know
met
they
each
were
other
different
before.
organizations, but I like the little bit of skeptic in me would have been like, plant.
Yeah.
I don't, based on what you guys are saying, I don't think that it was that. Even based on
Yeah,
what
no,
you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
I don't think it was that because she did not sound
Well,
like it wasn't a.
because
It's
she did
my
walk
mother.
After, she did walk in after she started.
yeah, she wasn't in
doing
there.
the
She
spirit
like walked
part.
in late.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I understand.
Yeah, no.
Had I been in the room, my immediate thing would have been like,
So
plant.
the other thing
Yeah, I
is,
thought too.
the other
No,
thing
'cause
is,
I immediately also was like,
I had
kinda
some
skeptical.
of
I
that
was
same
like,
thought, but after she's able to identify at the end, it's like, okay, we've gotten to the point where we know who we think this is.
right.
And now what is the message? And whatever, I don't remember exactly what she said, but whatever she said to this woman, like, clearly, like,
resonated with
her.
her.
Made an impact.
She said it feels like she wants you to own yourself, to be who you are, to not hide things. Like,
that's a mama thing to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like she wants you to show the world who you are and not to hide yourself. Just like she did when you were a child. She showed you off. She wanted you to, show yourself, show your true colors. And I was like, yep, that's a mom thing.
Yep.
That sounds, yep. Mm-hmm.
Like a mom.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the second, I will say, if the first one felt kind of planty, I did not get that feeling with the second spirit that came through.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even think
one...
the first one was planty either, for me at least. Like I said, because she started and she was like, "Oh, school teacher, chalkboard, those types of things."
For you, it was more that it was vague.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the lady walked in.
Okay.
And
the
then
second
she
one...
started talking about farmers and stuff, or the not
gardening.
Farming, the gardening, and she was like, maybe she was a school teacher. She was a school teacher.
Well, because every time
So
she'd be like, she'd kind of recap the things that like is being
Right,
presented to her.
Yeah.
So Kris is skeptical about the second one.
I'm
about the second
a
one.
little bit more skeptical about the second one
Talk to me.
because she was talking about like it was the like grandpa, right?
Yeah.
With the watch.
Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was
Irish wristwatch?
No.
No.
No, yeah.
And so she was talking about, she was like, I'm getting like a masculine energy, and he grew up like poor, maybe in like Depression era. Like he had this watch and he took really good care of it. Like it was a timepiece. Like I'm getting like a pocket watch type. Like I can feel it in my hand. Can anybody take this? And there was one woman who was like, I think so. And so she got a little bit deeper in there, and
It did make this lady cry.
it did make this lady cry.
Oh, no.
But the thing for me is like most of it matched up, but like it matched up like here, where it's like not a complete like
Okay.
where it was like
It's the puzzle piece that you're like, I think this goes here.
yeah,
And you
and
force it.
you force it.
Well,
Because
later you
like
go, hang
it,
on.
it wasn't a like it was a timepiece. It was an alarm clock. It wasn't a
Wrist or
like a
Well, but also
Pocket watch.
the
A pocket
lady
watch.
that, not the medium, but the lady that was like taking it, like she just kept talking. Like she wouldn't let the Misty like finish what she was trying to like
saying.
pull information from. And the history story, I'm not going to tell this lady's like family story, because it was not all of it was great, and
Right.
nor do we know this person to like share their shit.
I was just gonna say
None of
Right,
these people
but-
consented to be on our podcast.
right, but like what I feel like is fine enough is that like he was an Irish immigrant
Yeah.
who came over alone. and
Apparently
this
it was
like,
her-
the thing that he brought that was his
father.
grandfather.
It was
or
his-
father's
it was
or
his
grandfather's.
father's.
it was her dad.
And then it was
and it
his
was
dad's.
his dad.
Well, no,
Okay, so
I
it's
thought it
her-
was her grandpa.
No, it was her
No, it was
dad.
Her dad, okay.
Yeah. It was her dad.
So the clock was her grandfather's.
Yes.
Yes.
Passed
And
down.
he held on to it, but the dad and the grandfather did not have a good relationship.
Something
at all.
about
Right.
he was Protestant in
and-
Catholic Ireland, and like a whole
And
thing.
he
Yeah.
was,
That's a
like,
thing.
He was booted, like very early on. But all that to say, like he came here, he did have a watch, or like the like
clock.
a little watch, but it was not like he didn't actually use it or anything like that. And then it turned into, well, she said it's an alarm clock that he had had from blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and like he took meticulous care of it, and like so
Yeah.
it was like a timepiece that like he cared a
Now-
lot about,
Yes.
and it was like the
And
thing
it was
that
one
he
of those
brought from
triangle
home.
ones that like unfolds and like sits on itself.
So
and
I
he
think
could carry
she
it.
called it an alarm
Yeah.
clock. I don't think that's actually like
I don't
what
think
it
so.
But it was like
is.
a
Not at
desk
all.
timepiece,
Yes.
not a
Okay.
personal
Yes.
timepiece.
But it would have been one that it's small enough to have transported.
Right.
Anyway,
It's not a grandfather
what I
clock.
will
No.
say that Misty told us later that I think impacts the way that what she was seeing versus how we were interpreting it is very similar to what I would compare it to is like Dana when she's talking like in Hellier at the end of Hellier 2 when she's talking
About the
the communication style.
Where she like has a lexicon that she's having to pull from.
Right.
Correct.
So it's the same way. Like Misty was explaining it, and like I have to interpret what they're showing me, but I don't. But it's coming from what I can create in my own brain.
Right.
So if they're trying to tell me something like this clock that she may never have seen before, she's gonna see wristwatch.
Correct.
Because that's the closest,
or
a pocket watch, because that's the closest thing that spirit can get.
Right.
To show her what they're trying to pass on.
Well, that's like we've gotten a couple of times through the spirit box, like when we channeled my dead brother and with Mike, we've gotten it's hard. Like this isn't easy.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to communicate to you, but like, you know, specifically with Mike, at the version of Mike that lives here, because I do know a little bit of what's happening in the Seance. The version of Mike that's here, we think is a little kid, so his lexicon is going to be a lot smaller than an adult spirit, and he's also.
And trying to search through our lexicons is not going to be easy.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then same thing with my brother, of him being like, it's hard, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can understand a spirit trying to communicate to a modern person and be like, I don't know, it's a fucking watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how to describe
like
this
that
to you.
has a clock on it.
So
I don't know.
It's a watch.
after that one, because that lady, separate from the medium, talked and like just wouldn't stop sharing.
Oh my God.
Lex,
It was fascinating.
It was
but-
very fascinating,
for sure.
but like Misty was like, okay, and now it's time for me to
On to the next
swap. She's like, don't leave. Somebody else is coming. Just hang out for a few minutes. And so they did the.
She had to do something.
No,
Okay.
they were switching the mediums in each room.
They traded the mediums out.
Every room saw two different mediums.
That was my fault.
So then we're hanging out. I don't know, 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
5-10 minutes.
5-10,
like
yeah.
we just hung out. It was time was weird. It was hot. The energy was weird in the room.
Right.
And so, like at the beginning, all of the other groups are just sitting there whispering. They're whispering very quietly.
And Chris and I are just
Yeah, and then
Oh, no.
I'm like, "Hey, Mackenzie, I have an idea."
like we're making
Hey.
we're like having the entire. We want to bring the stuff we talked to you about last night. Like we were having
Right.
that conversation
Yeah.
in the seance room.
Yeah.
So then the other medium
And then
comes
I also
in.
mentioned, I was like, "Man, I was really hoping that Mike would come through."
Oh, so it's your fault.
Yeah, it is. Because I
so-
was like, I really want to know more about Mike, our
Yeah.
friend.
We were just having a general like, man, it'd be interesting
It'd
to
be
see what
interesting,
happens.
yeah.
You know, if we were able to learn more. Yeah. So the second medium comes in, and she also has a little spiel that she reads. And it was so dark in the room at that point. She had to like fully turn her flashlight on. It was pitch black.
That's so funny.
It was her like phone flashlight, and she was like, "Oh, it's so bright." And she
She's,
like put
trying
it like
not-
under the
because
table to
we
try
have all-
not to blind
so
people.
we have all become accustomed to this dark ass
Right.
room, and then she turns her phone flashlight on, and Chris and I are like, oh.
So is everybody else in the room.
yeah, everyone's like, oh my god,
You know, because
my eyes.
my idiot ass does the same
Looks
thing that
right at her.
yeah looks right at the light as she's trying to turn it on, because that's what I do anytime somebody's trying to turn a light on. I'm like, let me look directly at
Let me
it.
make sure
just
your
to-
light gets turned on.
Yeah, let me make sure it turns on,
The
and then
lady
I'm
the
like,
other side of her went, ugh, like that.
So she gets started. We do another set of deep breaths, which I think is a school taught thing that they do to like
It's a good thing to do because it does like one, it
Centers
centers
you.
it centers every individual person, and it also syncs everyone in the room if you do them like together.
Yeah.
yeah, and we did, and it was very nice.
Yeah, so it gets everyone like on the same like on the same page of like,
Yeah.
oh, we're all gonna do a deep breath together, and then
Yeah.
now everyone's energy is synced.
We haven't done that today.
We don't usually unless we're having weird shit going
Yeah, I
on.
guess so.
it's usually it's after shit happens. That
We might do it after this episode.
Um,
The energy in the studio is insane.
So
Probably because of me.
the first,
Yeah, it's Harrison's fault.
You're right.
The first spirit that lady gets, I think, was like a cousin or a brother to the lady
So-
next to Harrison.
Oh,
It was,
yeah, the
so
young man.
She starts off with he's young. He's younger. I don't know. He's older teenager, younger adult. I'm getting like 20s to 30s maybe. He really I don't know how to say this. He really likes the way he looks. He's
You know,
He's a hottie.
Yeah,
she
yeah,
was
like
she was really dancing around trying to be
Yeah.
like,
Like,
he's hot,
hot.
he's smoking
she
hot.
was
babe.
like, she was like, he's definitely into athletics.
He likes
rather
working out to
good-looking.
like
yeah, that type of stuff. And then the girl next to me, I say girl, but I don't know.
woman.
But the woman next to me, was like,
The lady.
this might be me, and she was like, well, he's showing me like, he didn't. There was a very tragic accident, and she was like, yes. I was like, oh no! I was like, oh no! I was like, everything was fine until I heard the voice crack, and I was like, I'm sitting right next to you.
I'm
Please
also
don't do
crying now.
Yeah, I was like, please don't do this to me.
And I guess the message of that one was basically like, it's okay. Like, I'm keeping an eye on everything from the other side. Like, keep doing what you need to do.
I'm so glad I didn't
She was
go.
like, don't be sad
I-
about how I
I'm so glad you weren't
I'm
there.
so glad I didn't go.
Like,
She's
as
like,
things were going, I was like, this would have been a really bad time
You
for
know,
Sarah.
in that little like break, I was like, I'm so glad.
Yeah, we were like, this would not have been it for Sarah.
Oh my god,
But
I
yeah,
would have
she
just been like.
She was like, yeah, like, don't. He said basically he was saying, don't worry about how I went out. Remember who I was before I
Right.
went. You know,
Right.
and I'm like, this is killing everyone in the room. This is great.
We're all going to join this spirit
Yeah.
because we're all dying of
And I'm-
sadness.
Like, and obviously my night vision has come back at that point, so I'm like, oh, everything's fine. And I see, like, out of the corner of my eye, like,
Just blubbering.
the lady next to her that they came together. I guarantee you they're family members, but like they reached over and grabbed each other's hands and like started squeezing. I was like, "Oh, please, okay." And I like slowly turned a little bit, so I was like, "I don't know how to do this." But yeah, like it was that one. I will say of the ones that she connected with, that one was more believable in my opinion.
So that one felt more real to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the other two were like, yeah, they're old. They did normal things that people back in the day used to do.
Yeah.
Here, can anybody take this? I'm
Right.
like, I'm sure a lot of people can.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I don't know.
Do you wanna?
Yeah, I'll talk. Can I talk about the next two because they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, one of them, the first one, she was like, I'm getting a man in his 50s, like maybe 55. He's a businessman, and he wears a little bow tie, and he's very like, he's got like maybe suspenders. He's a large man.
Like a kind of
He's
hefty
a big guy.
dude.
He's a hefty guy.
A big boy.
He's a big boy. And she's describing him, and like he's pretty like serious, but not fun. But like,
But like he's like He's like, you're gonna follow the rules
like
that I have.
very very
like
like
very
by the book, by
disciplinarian.
the rules. And
Specifically, like his kids and his family like knew you don't like.
I thought that was the last one that nobody claimed.
Maybe it was. The two of them were kind of the initial descriptions were kind of similar.
The first one that Chris is talking about was he's a businessman, suspenders, bow tie, basically firm hand. He didn't do the whole like rule with an iron fist, but
Yeah.
people that he worked with knew that you had to basically do your job, do the things that do your work and do it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be fine, but he ruled with a very firm hand type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm getting maybe like an M name. Like, does anybody know somebody like this? And I went, I was like, our mic is little.
Well, and I
Right.
had taken it initially. I was like, I might be able to. And she was like, and then she got to like outfit and some other things. And I was like, I could take most of this except for what he's wearing.
Okay.
Because I thought it was our previous training ship captain who passed away. Because his last name also started with an M. And he was a fun guy, but he also had a very like, this is the way I want things done, and
Right.
this is how you're gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like that energy, and he was in his 50s, 60s. So I was like, so help me, if Sean McNeese is haunting me from
That would be so fun.
I was gonna be so mad because my boss is like, talks about things will happen, and he's like, that's freaking Sean, like
Right.
And I'm like, so help me if somehow I've been sent McNeese at this stupid event. I'm gonna be so mad.
And he's like, "Do your job better."
Yeah,
Hey.
like,
message.
I'm gonna be. I
You're
was
not
like,
doing good
I was
enough.
like, I'm gonna be pissed. And then she gets to like the like more clothing description, and I was like, and then I went, I don't think I'm thinking of the same person. Like, I thought this was somebody that was mine, but this might not be mine. And like, I'm sorry for like messing somebody up if it's somebody else's kind of thing.
Yeah, and everybody's sitting there like going, no, nobody can take this. And then she closes her eyes again, and she goes, he plays with the lights somewhere?
In somebody's house.
At somebody's house?
and Chris
and I
go,
went, oh, that's mine.
that's ours. And then Chris goes, that's mine. And I'm just like, son of a bitch. Like, it clicks for me. And then she goes, she's looking at Chris and I, and she goes, did you guys come together?
We're like, yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, oh. And I was like, this is ours.
Oh, we know
She
who this
did
is.
pause for like a good couple seconds. She went,
And I go, oh.
and then several seconds passed, and then she continued. I was like,
because she started to like ask questions about like his physical appearance, and I was like, ma'am, I don't know. I've never met this man.
Not in that form.
We've never seen him.
I was like, I the way that I said it, I was like, I've only met this man as a spirit. We're friends,
Right.
in spirit.
We're friends in that he's in this room right now,
and then,
probably.
and she
Yeah.
goes,
Hey, Mike, if you're in this room, turn the light on.
And she goes, okay.
she goes, okay,
He
that's
doesn't
really
have a light on.
interesting.
Nothing
And well, hold on. And she goes, well, let me get a message.
Yeah, let's
And
get the
Let's
message.
get the message because also we needed to start wrapping up.
To move on
To move on to the next
another one.
spirit.
my phone turned on, but no notification popped up for that. That's
Weird. Mike, you're so close.
All right.
Mike, that's the wrong
Okay.
wrong
The-
box,
the-
not the box, this white circle right here.
Yep. Okay.
Um,
I'm moving my phone
Watch him be sitting just right there.
in my lap.
and
It
so
wouldn't be the first time a ghost sat in your lap.
basically,
That's true.
correct me if I'm wrong, the message that she gave us was like, he would like you to show up more. Like, we're just not in the room enough.
Yeah.
And he's lonely. And he's like, but she's like, but keep doing what you're doing. He thinks you're doing a really good job.
Aw,
Yeah, like
Papa Mike.
like show up for yourselves.
Yeah.
Like show up more, probably physically.
You know what's really funny? Basically, since we recorded, I haven't hung out in here that much.
Yeah.
Because I've been editing downstairs for the most part.
He said, "Get your ass back
I'm
up
sorry,
here."
Mike.
And-
I'll edit in here again.
And so she was just basically like, this is what he has to say. And we were
And
just,
like have confidence
and
in
have
yourselves.
confidence
like,
in yourself. And I was like, oh, so he listens to us just be mean to ourselves in
Yeah.
the room.
I love that grown-up Mike had to come tell us that. Not that little kid Mike.
Firm hand, Mike.
From him, like, well, get your shit together. Maybe this is after his.
After he got in trouble.
Yeah, after he got in trouble.
He was like, rules are really important.
yeah.
They're enforcing them. I have to enforce them as
and
well.
then the last. Just talk about the last guy because I don't remember the last
no,
guy.
because there was another one, and she was talking about like an old lady, and I was like, I don't know.
Didn't those like kind of almost
Almost
cover
matched.
each other?
No,
like,
no,
no,
it was
no.
like-
One of them
That was the
jumped
like grandma
in.
lady that Chris claimed.
No, I know, but I thought it like right at the very end, not before we finished with Mike, but I thought
Was
somebody-
Maybe?
she was getting a little bit of like vibes, and she was like, maybe this is another spirit
Maybe.
that's trying to like butt in.
Because she had very much the same message as Mike.
That's why I was okay.
Of like, believe in yourself. Like,
Yeah,
cut it
I-
out.
I do. I will say, like, I buy into mediums like that. I'm the opposite of a skeptic when it comes to mediums. I will say, like, sometimes I'm like,
yeah, I was like, I'm
But-
not sure if this one is mine.
but the fact of the like all of the messages being very much like you're doing great, sweetie.
Well, but the
Yeah.
other thing
is very much a like.
So the other thing is,
Yeah.
so the other thing is her opening was very like intent on, this is all about love and not anger and not so it was so her
Don't show up if you're mad.
like her intention setting was all very love, positive, good energy. So for me, it's not that surprising that all of the messages that she
Right.
was being
Were very
given
good messages.
were in that vein because that's the energy and the intent that she put out. So we kind of finish your.
But yeah, so she was pulling through like a little old lady energy, and I was like, I have 2 grandmas that have passed. I was like, okay,
Right.
I'm gonna keep listening with the intent of like like
Checking the list.
playing Guess Who
Yeah.
is essentially what it was. It's like, does your person have big bushy eyebrows?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Big rimmed glasses.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well this could be one of my grandmas. And she kept going through, and I was like, maybe. And then she was like, I'm getting the letter B, and I was like, nobody else took that, and I was like, we called my great grandma Beis. Beis, and I was
Yeah.
like, could it be Beast? And she looked at me and went, Beast? And I said,
She could
no.
not get this name.
I said Beis, and she said Beast. And I said no.
No T.
Went on several times.
It went on for a minute, and I was like, no.
No T.
Chris was about to be like, I'll spell it out for you if you need me to.
No, I did. I spelled it out, and I was like,
that's
it's
right.
Beis,
Yeah.
Beast.
Yep.
And she goes, it's a B.
Hilarious.
Definitely a B.
Hilarious.
And I
'cause
said,
I'm pretty sure her name
great.
was Belinda.
Yeah,
Like,
her
that's
name
why
was
it's
Belinda.
Funnier that she couldn't get there.
That's so funny.
And I was like, what? Describe more.
Say more things.
Say more. See if I can see if this is the same person or not. And she was like,
Right.
like a little old church lady. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I'm getting like a VBS. And I was like, she didn't speak English. I was like, she barely spoke English. And like she kept asking more questions. And I was like, she died when I was like
Tiny.
10 maybe. Like I didn't,
Not teeny tiny.
not teeny tiny, but like
You didn't know her that well.
we were not super involved with
Right.
her.
Right.
We did not get to see her very often.
It would be like my Nana coming through.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who I have seen as a ghost, but I did not know.
right. It's like I went to her house a couple times. Like I have memories of like feeding deer over her back fence, like
Cute.
throwing corn tortillas up in a tree to watch the deer eat corn tortillas out of a tree.
That's very fun.
Look, Cuban great grandma.
Right.
And so she was like, church lady. And I was like, yes, very much church lady. 100% yes. And then she was like, VBS. I said, unknown. Don't know that. Don't know that information.
Unsure.
Almost exactly the correct reaction. It brings it back to me as, yeah, that's exactly how you reacted. You're like,
Don't know.
Yeah, I was like, you're asking a question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And she goes, great.
Wonderful.
She's like, why are you the idiot who doesn't know anything about the spirits attached to you? Why are these yours? Why can't these be somebody who knows shit?
like, I'm describing this man. I've never seen him before.
Yeah.
I know him, but I've never seen him before.
I was going to say, I'm not going to lie, this was the person, like that last person that they were talking to before the B and everything else. I was like, okay, my grandmother was the wife of a, like, almost 30 or 40 year, like, Southern Baptist preacher. And, like, he kept preaching until, like, a year from his passing. And she was like the VBS lady, and she was like the church lady.
Yeah, I thought it was loose for a minute also.
Oh,
yeah.
And I was like, until she
You
said
did
the
tell me
letter
about
B,
that.
and then she
said the letter B,
and I was like, and that's not loose.
Yep, that's gone. Because she was like very short stature. I was like,
Loose was like 4'10".
was like
B for
4'10".
Baptist.
She was like at the tallest of her life. She was like 4'10", and my grandfather was like 6'5", 250 pounds, and had gigantism syndrome. So like complete opposite people.
Aw, cute.
You know,
So
like,
it's like
Cuties.
Beast and her sister Titi Conchita were both tiny ladies.
Say that one
Sister
more-
what?
Titi Conchita?
Titi
That's
Conchita.
amazing.
Yeah.
I
I don't think that's her like legal given
No,
name.
that's how-
that's
that's
Aunt-
that
would've
that's her
that's
like
a nickname for aunt.
Yeah.
And then with Cheetah.
yeah.
But I would have
Titi Conchita.
absolutely. That would have been an amazing like if it was her legal name.
Oh right, it would
Oh
be
my God.
fucking
I'm sorry.
fantastic.
That's just-
But like they were both very small ladies, and like one of my grandma's sisters, who I never got to meet, she had dwarfism. She had a C name though, so I was like, for sure that's not Cecilia.
Yeah.
But
But essentially the message was
Keep doing what you're doing.
keep doing what you're doing. Believe in yourself.
Be kind to yourself.
Be nice.
Yeah,
Believe.
her messages were not. I mean, besides Mike's was good, but like the other ones did not. Felt very generic.
Yeah.
In the way that like Misty's messages did not. Like were more personalized to the like spirit that was coming through. But after that,
so hard.
the last
Do you want to
spirit.
talk about that last one?
So like it just
Or
threw
would you?
it just threw me so hard, just specifically because Misty's like her messages were very specific.
Right.
Like that was very specific.
Like you felt like the descriptions of the spirits were generic,
Oh my
but
God,
the
yeah.
actual messages were like, no, that's clearly meant for that person.
But then the next person, and I can't remember her
Belinda.
name. Belinda. Her people were incredibly specific.
Right.
Like, that was.
Yeah, she had good brain pictures.
Yeah.
But not as
But
good.
just-
Like her messages were more vague.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, okay.
Well, I mean,
like,
that makes
okay.
sense because that makes me feel like they were both really legit because it's like I can see somebody being like, I get really vague images, but I get exactly what the fuck they want to tell you.
Yeah.
Versus
Absolutely
being
fair.
like, I know who this is. They just kind of are sending positive vibes.
Right. It's like
Yeah,
I
absolutely
can't.
The
fair.
message is
Right.
positive
It's like I
vibes.
can see them. I just can't quite hear what they're saying.
They're
though.
going.
They're right in front of
And
my
they're
speaking in
face.
smiling. They're
crossing.
smiling.
They're right in front of my face, but I can't hear them.
So
Yeah.
the last guy, she starts talking about like one more guy, and we have like 2 minutes left,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's like,
Speed run.
She's really
Yeah.
trying to like see if she can get anybody, and she's like, this is another 50s-ish kind of man, 40s, 50s man, very disciplinarian, very high and tight, very probably military
Large
or
man, yeah.
like a big tall man.
So like,
Was clearly
Has
she's-
a crew cut.
has a
like
crew
very
cut.
sharply.
She's like, he's also, it was really funny. She's like, we have some really good looking men and
Yeah.
guys coming
Yeah.
through tonight.
Hotties.
She's like, she was like,
she legitimately had a moment, and she was like, I was like, are you okay? Like,
like they're
Yo,
cute.
this guy's really hot.
she's like, this is an older guy, but like he's also like
He's a looker.
he's a
Yeah.
looker. He takes a lot of pride in his appearance. He was also, this was the one that was more like, you're not gonna fuck around. Like he's a disciplinarian. Like he has his rules and they're there for a
Yeah.
reason. Other than not like how Mike came through, like much
yeah,
stricter
yeah.
than that.
like very military.
Very
like,
military. She's like, I'm getting either military or law enforcement or something of that nature, and nobody could claim him.
that was another one that I almost could because my
Yeah, because
grandfather of the husband of Lucille was military, and
I want
again,
you-
he was like.
I want you to
He was
know.
preacher.
She said, "I'm getting an A,"
Yeah, and his name
Alan?
was Alan.
And see, that was the
and
thing.
I went, "Doesn't
Which Mackenzie, when we were channeling John Keel,
Yeah.
was like, "Is this Papa Allen?"
Well,
Like,
you know-
she fully thought we were channeling your
yeah.
dead grandfather.
you know?" I
It's-
fully turned and looked at Harrison and was like, "Don't
I
you
was
have
like,
a grandpa
fucking
named
take it.
Alan?"
But see, that was the thing. So when
she got
when
a
she
name,
said-
and you went, "It's not my
Well,
Allen."
no. But here was the issue, and here's where it came down to. So she starts talking, and she was like, "Hey, so I'm getting. He's rather large. He's quite attractive." And I was like, "Okay, I've seen very few pictures of my grandfather, like way back when, because he, like Depression era,
Right.
you know, had a baby of 12.
Not many pictures.
My grandmother was the baby of 14."
Jesus.
Hot
like
damn.
huge families.
Yeah.
And my the shortest cousin that I have on my grandfather's side of the family is like 6'4". Like the tallest one's like 6'9", 6'10", like
Right.
huge, right?
Big family.
Yeah. So I
In
was like,
both
that
definitions of
yeah, I
the
was
word.
like, so
There are
that
lots of them, and they're
fits.
large.
So I was like, that fits. And then she was like, military, crew cut. And I was like, remembering back in pictures, I was like, okay, not going to lie, definitely was attractive, like back in the day, right? Like big man, solid man. Okay, yeah, crew cut. Yeah. Oh, all right, yeah. And she was like, I'm getting an A, like Alan? And I was like, in my brain, I was like, that, But the last second, she goes, and I'm getting kind of like a medical vibe, and I was like, oh. It's like you had me till there, but then my dad was the medical guy. He wasn't. So I was like, man, you had me, and I was like, I was about to.
Okay.
And then literally 10 seconds later, she was done.
Can I tell you something insane?
What?
the reason why Mackenzie, when we were channeling John
Well-
Keel, thought Papa Allen was because the word hospital came
Well,
through.
but the wrong,
Yeah.
but I got the wrong
Yeah.
one. His
doesn't matter.
So-
you associated in that moment
Yes.
Allen with
So-
medical.
I will back that up because I did forget about this until just now because I didn't really spend a lot of time with these grandparents. They didn't it wasn't a great,
Yeah,
It's fine.
That's fine.
But all of that to say, so Papa Doc was he was an OBGYN for 30 years
Right.
and was Navy and a medic in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was all of those things and then became a surgeon, but like all of those things and then was an OBGYN, but not very attractive at any stage. No offense, sorry, but like was not attractive, kind of an rather over.
He was an uggo.
Yeah. So I was like,
I'll say it.
I was like, that doesn't match at all. But I was like, if now, and I could understand this now, and as I thought about it, I was like,
hindsight's
okay,
2020.
I was like,
Right.
it could have definitely been both of them,
Mm.
right? And she was getting A from Alan, medical from other, military from both,
Right.
Firm hand military from both,
Right.
type of thing.
Both
And
your
I-
grandpapas were coming in being like, hey, fucker.
Yeah, like, hey, stop fucking around. Yeah.
So Alan, Papa Allen,
Yes.
is your dad's
Dad's
father?
Dad's adoptive
Adopted.
father.
Okay.
Yes.
Craig was
But-
adopted.
And so your dad
Probably for a good
medical.
reason. Yeah, my dad's medical. My grandfather on the mom's side was definitely medical, like his whole life.
Because at least
Yeah.
to me, my thought would be, that's
Yeah.
your grandpa. He's thinking about your dad and you.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. That was the other thing I was thinking about. Was like, well, they're moving. They're
I
moving
also-
to
I
a
also,
place. He
I
just
also am
retired,
like,
a
I'm
couple
also
years
like,
ago.
I get it. If being like, oh, that doesn't quite fit, and then it being like, and the session's over.
Yeah.
Like,
And
if
see,
you
that
had
was
had
the
more
thing.
time, you
And
probably would have been like, no, fuck, that is him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's. I feel
Also,
like,
I think it's hilarious that you, the guy who was like, I don't believe in this shit, had
See,
somebody very aggressively
yes.
be like,
Alan.
my name is Alan. I
Yeah.
am your
Yeah.
your hot grandfather, Alan.
Yeah. And see,
Talk
that's-
to me, grandbaby.
And see, that was the thing. So, like, I think the other issue was
I have things to say.
during it was an hour of me kind of like being and going. That's like that's
you
too
had-
easy type of thing.
You had rooted yourself
Yeah.
into,
Oh
I'm
my
not
God,
believing
without a
this.
doubt. But like I said, I did start thinking about it afterwards, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely could have been that type of situation. But yeah, no. So that was. I think I agree. If I had more time to really listen, because no joke, we did have like less than 2 minutes when
Yeah.
you
Right.
did that last one, and I was like, and Mackenzie and I had like multiple times where we locked eyes.
I
and
was
we're
like, I'm pretty sure
"Are
this
we-
is yours.
This is.
You
type
should
of
have gone,
thing.
Harrison, this is yours.
Yeah, and I was like,
Take it.
You know,
But yeah.
you should have been like, "Boom, I'm taking it for him. It's
Yeah, no,
his.
exactly.
That's his.
Right.
Like, is it for me? But like I said, the more I think about it, the more I think back. It could have been a mix of both. And
Right.
She was,
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole night, right? She was like, I'm getting a lot of different vibes. And
Right.
like,
It sounds like a
you know,
couple of times
multiple-
there were more than one person coming through.
Oh, yeah.
100%, without
And
a
if
doubt.
they were similar enough, I could see
Yeah.
her being like, this is one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially and I kind of mentioned
Especially
it,
if they're both for the same person.
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of mentioned it to both Mackenzie and Kris. I was like, hey, a older house in literally the middle of renovation
Right.
is going to stir up some shit.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
So,
Right, because
like,
that's the other thing. It could have just been house ghosts.
yeah,
Yeah,
it didn't
it could've
even
been house
mean-
ghosts.
It didn't even know, like, they couldn't have known any of us, maybe, and it just been, like, people talking, right?
Right.
People like, hey, you're fucking
like-
up my room.
Yeah, it's like,
bro,
I
what the
have
hell?
something to say.
Yeah, like
You're in my
please stop.
house.
Like, but, yeah, so,
Then
Yeah.
that kind of wrapped the seance up, and we went
yes.
downstairs slowly. Well, we wandered upstairs to look at the rooms,
Yeah, I
Right.
was like, I want to see everything up here while we're up here.
They-
Right.
and so Harrison had headed down because he didn't care. We wandered through some of the rooms.
Talk about, really quick, I'm just going to put you all on the spot.
Yeah.
Talk about the perfume.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we
Because the lady that walked past me that y'all were calling out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, my nose is kind of broken a little bit, but honestly, couldn't smell anything off of it.
Okay.
So, like, just FYI.
So, we had walked into...
I think it was a bedroom.
Yeah, it was like a bedroom.
Very torn up bedroom.
Yeah.
Right. It's in renovation.
Right. And so we walked in there, and immediately
There
like,
had
I'm
been-
hit with like a wall of like incense.
So as
smell.
we are leaving, or two ladies walk out of that room, we wait for them to clear, and then we go into that room.
They were out for like good 15 seconds.
Yeah, like They were out of there. Like,
and we get in the room, and there is a clear, because I smell it also. There's a clear kind of incensey perfume smell.
Okay.
like
And so Kris
it
is like,
hit me like Catholic Mass
Okay.
incense.
Like,
where I
right,
was like,
got it. Understood.
oh,
so like Kris goes, "Did you smell that?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I wonder if it was those ladies because they were going down the stairs." And so I left Kris at the top of the stairs, and I awkwardly am like, "Excuse me, are you wearing like a heavier perfume,
like an incense,
like an incensey?" And she's like, kind of. I don't know that I would call it. I was like, "Can I like come smell you?"
Can I
They
smell
were
you?
they were standing literally less than 3 feet away from me, and I couldn't smell anything.
And
so I was
Okay.
like,
So
I
I
don't think
got
you're
up there.
yeah.
I got up to her, and I smelled the smell again around her, which doesn't mean it's not like again his nose
The
could be
room
broken.
could have clinged to her also.
Right.
Right, but like I smelled it again. So in my head, I was like, it may just be what she's wearing.
Right.
Right, but like with the level of smell that I smelled in there, I was like, did somebody put on perfume in here?
So.
Did one of the like
Reapply.
mediums sit in here with like
Did they
an
incense this
incense
room?
cone?
Yeah.
Like did somebody light a candle in here? Like it was so
And that's not.
pungent.
I had been in that room earlier, like by myself, no smell.
Yeah.
So there was that, which there's not, because I did smell the perfume smell again on that around that lady. I can't give I think this is a spirit smell.
Yeah, it's like we did not investigate further, but it was
Right.
an odd thing.
It was an odd thing that happened. So
But when you
then-
were smelling it, you did walk out of the room, stand at the top of the stairs, which it was next to the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
You stepped like 5 steps out of the room and smelled.
Yeah.
Because that's where the lady had walked down.
Mhm.
But she was still halfway down the stairs. Like, so again, if she stood there for a good 15 to 20 seconds while y'all were having that conversation, and I smelled nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
And like as soon as I stepped out of the room, I didn't smell anything anymore either.
Intriguing.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
yeah.
So
I love smells.
I love a
And the look
smell
on their
phenomenon.
face was like,
You know, and like the medium that was standing at the top of the stairs, like making sure to like put people in rooms, was like, huh?
she was like, I didn't smell anything.
I was
And
trying-
she's standing right
I'm
next
trying
to
not to be just weird about being like,
But yeah.
hey, are you wearing like a really weird smelling perfume or like a heavy perfume? Like I was trying not to
smell
like,
you.
These are people we don't know. Like
You know,
I was
and
trying
I,
not to be like,
I behind Mackenzie, I'm like, do you smell like incense?
Do you smell like patchouli? Can I sniff you?
it was
And I
clearly.
could
I will say
smell
it was
those
clearly
And then you walk up
not.
and you go.
Because the other thing is,
Nope.
Mackenzie
Not you.
can attest. Every time I smell something like that, I get a headache. Like truly,
Right.
And she can like pop something open for half a second. I'm like, oh, ow, like almost immediately.
Right.
And I smelled nada,
Nothing.
nothing.
So
So
we
yeah,
finished wandering around. The smell is the only thing up there that was like
An
weird,
odd,
an
right,
odd,
whatever.
an odd moment.
yeah, like a yellow flag, like woohoo, there's something.
Woo! We have a discussion about like, oh, there's the stairs to the third floor. We're not doing that tonight.
third floor was dark as hell too.
And then
I'm just
we,
saying, I wasn't gonna walk up there.
and then we go ahead and head downstairs because they're trying to swap groups. So they're trying to
Right.
make sure everybody that was upstairs has come downstairs, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first get down there, every one of the readers got people with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slam
And
full,
so
yeah.
we kind of just wander around a little bit. That's when we talk more to Joe and her sister Janie about like the potential working together later and more information about the house and like different things like that, which if it comes to fruition, you'll hear more about later.
Yeah.
And then they have like 2 stairs up before you were to turn and go all the way up the stairs. And in that, if you go up and then back, it's like a little sunroom. And so
very cute little room.
It's a very cute little room. And so as I kind of like walking around after we finished our conversation, I look kind of up there and I realize there's a reader open. And I was like, come on, like we're going to go. So I was like, I will go sit. So then worst comes to worst, I was like, worst comes to worst, the 3 of us can just go boom, boom, boom from the same reader.
Right.
Like at least we've gotten to the point where we can at least get seen by somebody.
Yeah. And so Harrison and I like pop a squat on the couch.
They're sitting because now we've been sitting, but then we've been upright and we're sitting back down for Christopher's knee.
Yep.
So I
that
go ahead
sofa,
and start.
I almost sank to the floor.
Oh my god, it was so comfy though.
It was.
Like I sat down and I was like, boom.
Yeah, like I sat down and I sunk like almost a good foot into the cushion, and I was like, oh, okay, we're good, we're fine.
It's like we're not falling onto the floor.
So I start my reading, and besides us futzing with your chaos deck, this is my first ever like official reading by somebody that is not that I would consider more professional than we are.
Right. I'm not a professional. I don't get paid to do that shit. No. I shouldn't.
And so she starts pulling cards, and about halfway through my reading, Kris starts his reading with Misty behind me in the room.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're in the same room. My reading's about halfway through when Kris starts his, and then Harrison goes after me.
I'm so proud of you.
So I'm doing mine, and she pulls. It's a 9-card spread, and then she pulled from like I had 3 or 4 different decks that she pulled out of.
That's fun.
That she was doing different things from. So she did my initial 9 path, and then she pulled 3 of like what the overarching message of this, or like what from like the like divine spirits. Anyway, it was a very interesting read. I'm really mad I forgot to ask if I could take a picture of the card, so I don't have a picture of my pull.
Same.
Yeah,
and
I don't have mine.
I have a picture of mine for my birthday.
I know. Well, because of the like the way we were doing it, I didn't feel as if it was like the space for me to be like, can I take a picture of my spread? She probably would have said yes, it would have been fine. Yeah. I just was like unsure of how to like bring that up in the moment, because I was like, man, I really should take a picture of this for the fucking podcast.
At the end of my birthday reading, she went, do you have any questions for me? And I went, can I take a picture of this? She went, girl, you could have recorded it. And I was like, fuck!
I didn't know if it was like a taboo thing to do.
No.
So I was like, oh.
So she's
Like,
pulling.
tell people your birthday.
And basically, the gist of my reading was that there's something that I've been working really hard on, like working really, really diligently on, putting a lot of effort into. And for me, it very much translated to like this project in that like you're working really hard. There are some people that are like doubting you, or you have self-doubt, but things are going to happen. And as soon as this happens, it's going to like take off and go, and it's going to be doing what you want it to do, and it's going to be really successful. It was a really good, like, it was a very positive pull, and that like a lot of the, she's like, there's some kind of, one of the cards she pulled from it was like a card that was like, it wasn't one of the your standard tarots. It was one that it wasn't a deck I recognized from like other research we've done. But basically the card was about like some kind of block, and she's like, it's a block, but it's not like an external. I'm getting like some kind of emotional block. I was like, hi, it's me. I'm my own problem. Besides my own emotional hangups, overall, it was a very like positive reading. And interestingly, and another reason I thought this was specifically about us in this project is in my poll was both the 3 of Cups and the Knight of Swords, which are the cards that represent Kris and Sarah. If I'd gotten the Fool, I would have been like, this bitch keeps showing up in my shit, and it would have been you.
So the Fool is like my favorite card. That like it's I've said this before. Like it's my aspirational card. I hope to be the Fool. I am the Knight of Swords.
Yeah. So I got,
and I know that about myself.
So I got both of those, and I was like, this is so like in my head. I'm going, okay, I know this has to be somehow related to our friendship, to this project, because those 2 cards would not, what their meanings are is one thing, and obviously relates to the journey that I'm on. But for both of them to show up,
right,
is specifically to me showing the 2 of you.
Right. like if either one of those had showed up by itself, it would have just been like, oh, the
interpretation.
The Three of Cups is like a card of community and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And the Knight of Swords is like a card of protection. Like,
Yeah.
if either one of those had come up by themselves, it would have just been like, oh, whatever. But both of them coming up is very much like, God damn it, get out of here.
Yeah. So so anyway,
You guys.
I wrap up and I'm like half listening to Kris, but I really want to see if I can hear what Harrison's pull is.
Right.
I promptly get distracted and don't hear any of Harrison's pull.
Oh my God. I would have.
It was an interesting poll.
But I'll let Kris.
I would have
Kris
loomed.
finished up second, so I'll let Kris tell whatever he wants to tell about his.
Yeah.
reading.
So I'm not gonna talk a lot about necessarily the reading. I'll talk a little bit about the reading.
Right.
So she did.
I'm gonna pause you before you
Yeah.
do that. Tarot readings are incredibly personal.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like I was really vague with my birthday one because I think a lot of the story that was told was about the podcast in my reading, but I also think a lot of it was about like other things that I'm personally like ruminating on.
Yeah.
In regards to like my own personal success and that kind of stuff. So like I don't and the other thing for me is like it's not anything that I like don't want to share. It is the like birthday wish. I don't want to speak it because if I talk about it won't happen is kind of where I'm at with a lot of that.
Well,
and like they are the kind of thing where like I'm not telling the podcast who that card was or what it was about. My friends know because I immediately was like this fucker. But I'm not going to tell the podcast about it.
Right. But so it was a six card spread. She first card jumps out of the deck.
I love that.
oh,
goes,
I also had
"Lovely,
a card.
that's important."
I had a card. Sorry, one of the cards fell on the floor when she was pulling like my last set, and there was another card from the original 9 pull that had fallen on the floor, and we only found it because the other card fell, and it tied back to something else. And she was like, "This is really interesting that other card fell because we never would have found this card on the floor if the other card hadn't fell."
Yeah. But so that first card, she picks it up, she puts it on the table. Guess what it is? It's the Queen of Pentacles.
Oh my God, it's
That's
Mackenzie.
me.
And so immediately my hands go on the table and I turn around to look at Mackenzie and I go, "Get out of here." And I turn back and she goes, "What was that?" I was like, "That's her card."
That's her.
And then she goes, "Okay, great." And then she pulls the next card and it's the Knight of Swords.
my
And
God.
I said, "You motherfucker."
We're both right next to each other.
You know, immediate like pull after pull. And I was like, "Well, fuck." And she
Okay.
goes, "What?" I was like, because
That's my other I
I
have
was
two
like,
friends and they're both here.
Yeah, I was like, that's the 2 friends in my little trio of friends. Like that's the 3 of us, and like we do things like this together. And she goes, "Okay, interesting. Are y'all working on a project?" I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm not getting into it right now during the set because my approach to like being read is like I'm not
I'm not giving you anything.
I'm not giving you
I
anything."
didn't tell her anything till the end.
And I was like, "You tell me things, and as we go through, I'll either like yay or nay, like you're barking up the right tree or the wrong tree."
Right. That's how I approached mine too.
That's how I. Yeah, that's how
Where
I
it's like,
approached
no. You tell me, and I'll confirm or deny, and afterwards I will tell you.
Right.
The only
what
thing
that
The
means.
only thing I confirmed to my girl, like while she was doing it, is because she's like, "I'm getting this like something school and work, but they're very like connected." And I went, I work for a university. And she goes, "Thank you," because she's like, I couldn't figure
reconcile
out
that.
And I was like, "I'm gonna let you keep going, but like that's the piece that you're stuck on right now, so you can keep going."
You know, same thing. Like it's like you're getting stuck. I know what this is.
Yeah.
Yes, keep going.
Keep going. You're right. Keep going.
And so then she pulls another card, and she was like, "Okay, well, if those are your friends, that one's you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because it was a strength card, and I was like, "I guess." And then the rest of the cards, she was like, "Okay, well, there's decisions to be made, and there's this and that and whatever."
Yeah.
And then it got really, really deep and personal, and I was like,
Didn't she let you pick the deck that she pulled from?
No, so she originally started with one deck, and then she had me pick from 2 different decks to get clarification.
Okay.
To get like more information, like a message.
I just overheard towards the end like her asking you to pick, which was interesting because like she had like a cart full of decks, and so mine was like out of 3 or 4 different decks, whatever the energy was leading her to.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like
That's very fun.
You know,
what
and
like,
she.
the difference
I'm
was there.
so tempted, since I already have that Chaos Tarot deck, I'm so tempted to mix my other 2 tarot decks also into that deck.
Yeah.
Because I have the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, like the classic yellow box tarot deck,
Yeah.
and then I have the Good Omens deck.
It'd be fascinating.
I'm so tempted to just put them all together and just see what comes
300
out.
card pickup.
Yeah.
But so it, once we had kind of gotten to a place and I was like, I don't know what to do with this information. And like, I was like, shit. And cause like as soon as we had pulled those first 2 cards and I was like, sick, great. Why are they here? Get out of here. This is my reading. And she was like, do you know how to do tarot? I was like, yes. I was like, I've done my own tarot. Like I'm learning. I'm not good at tarot, but like I'm in the learning process. And so like, she very much like, up in the seance was like, we're not doing this theatrical shit. Like we're gonna talk like real people, and so like we went back and forth, and it was like,
yeah.
It felt very informal, like a friend giving me a tarot reading,
fun.
which was really cool. And so once we had gotten to the point where I was like,
yucky.
And now what?
What do I do with this information?
She picked up 2 decks, and one was like
yelled way too loud. In my
like a white, pink, and blue. Like it was like a pastels, and the other one was like a very rich like blacks and like purples and oranges.
Right. Halloween colors.
It was not quite Halloween color. It was like reds and like like very like jewel tone, like spooky
colors that you like.
Colors that I like, and whatever reason, I knew it was the light one. The light one had something to say. I wanted to pick the other one because I was like, I like that better. It's prettier. It speaks to like the things that I like, and like
it scratches your brain right.
Yeah, it scratches my brain right. But I was like, the other one, like I can tell has something to say. Right. It's that one.
Yeah.
And she goes, weird. I thought you were gonna pick the other one. I was like, I did too.
Me too.
And
yet
the other one was speaking. I was like, I can almost hear it. I don't know what it's saying. It has something to say though. And so she takes it, she cuts it a couple times and like puts out a card and was like, love yourself. And I was like, fuck you. fuck you.
Love yourself. No.
I was hearing that a lot for Misty. Yeah, she would get like really quiet and then she'd say something and I'd hear like a I was like, yep, okay, somebody's getting shot at.
Love yourself. No.
No.
Don't talk to me.
And then she pulled a second one and I don't remember. It was a similar vibe and message and I was like, I was like, you couldn't have given me more of a nothing answer. Like, this sucks. What do you mean? She was like, I don't know. Sandwich. A nothing sandwich that was like a slap in the face, too, though.
Right. They threw a nothing sandwich at you.
Yeah. I was like, this doesn't answer the question.
They Gordon Ramsay idiot sandwiched you, but with a nothing sandwich.
Yeah. I was like, fuck. What do you want from me? And she goes, I don't know. And I was like,
that's so funny.
I guess that's it. And I was like, great.
Thanks. Now I have to think.
Thanks. Now I have to go sit and chew on that for a long time, probably. You know, because I guarantee, what month is it now? It's April?
April.
In 2 months, I'll have an answer.
Right.
I was like, I know the ending date of the decision period for what this decision is.
Watcha.
Guess we'll find out next time.
We'll find out maybe. The podcast probably won't.
The podcast probably won't.
No, I meant that in like a our we might find out.
Because One Direction, the decision is a non-issue. Mm-hmm. Nothing happens. Mm-hmm. Nothing changes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it'll be interesting. Still more chewing to be done. Great. But it was a wonderful, excellent tarot reading.
And then Kris and I talked.
Oh yeah,
to
and
Misty
then we like
podcast.
cornered her and we're like.
We also asked her like about Mike, and we were like, "Hey,
listen.
have you ever had a spirit show up to you at various ages?" Because we were like.
At this point, we were still unsure if that was Mike or not. We were like,
we were like, hey, have you ever had a spirit show up in different ages? She's like, yeah, my grandma will show up to me in like multiple different ways. Sometimes as a younger, beautiful, like 20s, 30s woman,
right?
And sometimes she's showing up closer to the end of her life when she's older. More of what I remember her as,
right?
And I was like, so it's not out of the question to say if we've had somebody come to us as like a child.
Yeah, like a 6 to 8 year old.
For them to maybe also show up to us as an adult. And she's like, no, they could totally do that. And like gave us, at least for me, it was like reassuring that we weren't
crazy.
We weren't crazy. And like
Right.
we weren't putting a puzzle piece where it's not.
Right.
We weren't being like this, we want this to be ours so badly that we're like
Right.
we
That
are
we're making
like
Right.
we're forcing the square peg into the round hole. So that for me was reassuring. And we were doing all of that while Harrison was getting his reading.
Because the other thing about that too is like the way that I think about it, especially if we think of ghosts, spirits, specters, whatever, as like an imprinting of energy in a place.
Right.
If it's like, oh, we have the kid version of Mike because this is where the school was.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think it was necessarily on this property, but
Right,
like,
but it
he
could have
was
been
in,
nearby.
He was in school in this area.
Yeah.
It would make sense that that's the version
Or
of him that's here.
his house could have been somewhere near here.
Right. Like he was a
Yeah.
right, like he was a boy here
in this area.
and maybe he did move to Galveston. Like
Yeah.
this
Because
we're gonna do probably a whole episode about Mike, because I've done a ton of research about him. Like
you
it's
know,
entirely possible that he railroaded, like got on the railroad and moved his ass to Galveston, and yada yada.
could he have been the foreman?
No, because I think the foreman is from when the railroad was being built,
Okay.
and that was in the 1870s.
Okay,
and
that
we
was
think
older.
we think Mike is like Depression era.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
was a
a
kid
Well,
in
during the
Depression.
Depression.
Kid Mike is 20s, 30s.
That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike was a kid in
Got
the
it.
Depression.
Understood.
So
yeah.
Because that's the Popeye and the Rice Krispies
Right.
and everything
Yeah.
that we were getting.
Right. I did so much fucking research about this area and Mike, because like, and the things that Mike said to like try and pinpoint when
Mike.
So that way we can ask some more pointed questions.
Yeah. But yeah.
Harrison, do you want to tell us about your tarot reading?
Yeah. So again, going into it very non-believer, to know, like, it's cards. What are you talking about? type
Right.
thing, right. And any listener out there, please, if you have my number or a way to message me, like, tell me if I'm wrong on any of these or if it's wild. I don't know any of these things, right?
Right.
Just throwing it out
Confirm in
there,
the
right?
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just throw it
Talk
out
shit
there.
about him in the comments.
Absolutely. Please do.
We'll tell him
But-
all of them.
Because so so she's shuffling through the cards. So she starts off and she goes, which deck? What am I getting? Okay, then sure. And she grabs one and I was like, what was the okay sure about? And she goes, I haven't used these in like a long time. And I went, okay, type of thing, right? And so she's like shuffling. And so as she's shuffling, she's not like pulling out a card, which is what I expected, I guess I should say.
Right.
So she's just shuffling, and I'm like, all right, lady, you've been shuffling for like 2.5 minutes. Like, what are we doing here? Like, are we just going to sit here all night?
And she's waiting for cards to
And
fall.
She's waiting for cards to fall.
So I like I said, no idea.
Right.
And so I'm like,
Harrison
I at least
has
knew-
witnessed one tarot reading before, and it was me fucking around with my cards.
yeah.
For me.
We were just kind of doing a generic reading.
Yeah.
Like of the house. And I think it was when we were doing either a game day or something. Like, because we also played card games that day. But like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my tarot deck. That's the only time Harrison has ever witnessed the tarot reading,
And
as far as I'm aware.
And
And he was like,
I didn't even witness. I was just like, I was in the space, and I think I tuned it out.
yeah, like you were sitting at the table
so
and
I
on
was
your
like,
phone.
great. Yeah, I was like, cool, go, okay.
Yeah.
Have no clue. So I'm sitting there. She's shuffling, and one of the cards. So she's shuffling. She's throwing the cards down into her hand.
Right.
No problem with that whatsoever. One of them, as she's going down with her hand, has not even hit her hand yet. One of them shoots out and it almost hits her in the face. And I was like, well, that was aggressive.
So that one's part of it.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And so, it lands in her lap. She picks it up. She puts it down. So the
Nice.
card jumps out, and she puts it on the table. And like I said, I'm going to cuss. I don't have any
Have you not
fucking-
heard us?
I know, but like any fucking idea what
Right.
this is whatsoever. And so she puts it down, and she's like looking at me and smiling. And I was like, lady, you got to explain. Like, what? And she goes, the Fool. And I went, cool, great. Like, I have no clue. And she goes,
That was the first card.
Harrison
So-
has not told Kris and I fully what his reading is
Right.
at all.
Iconic.
yeah. And so I was like,
I have one of those right there on the wall. Look at
yes.
it.
And see, I was like,
That's my
The deck
boy.
went,
I was
ha
like-
idiot.
yeah. So I was like, okay. And I was
That's
like,
not what it means.
and that's what she said. She was like, the fool. And I went, ouch. And I was like, you don't have to smile at me while saying that. And she was like, do you know what it means? And I went, no. And she goes, well, and she explains it, right? And I'm not going to lie. I don't remember exactly how she explained it, but she explained it. And it sounded somewhat good to me. So I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
it's
cool.
it's a really, really good card to get, especially as like the first card in a reading. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the history of tarot.
Yeah.
So in the tarot deck, it's the first card.
Oh, okay.
So like if you read there's the major arcana, which are the ones that aren't like the suits. They're
Oh,
the like
okay, yeah,
fancy
yeah,
ones, like
yeah,
the
yeah.
magician, the empress,
See,
the
I had a
whatever.
couple of those.
Like the fool
Yeah.
is one of those. So
Yeah.
he's number 0. So if
Okay.
you look at those, the major arcana
Yeah.
as as like a story,
Uh-huh.
the fool is the character that's going through that story.
Oh,
Yep.
so he's Odysseus
Can see
in
it.
the Odyssey.
Sort of. Like
Yeah.
he's I don't want to call him like the main character, but basically the fool is
Yeah.
depending on the deck, most of the time he's like on a precipice, he's on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Like I have
Yeah.
there's one right there behind me. He's
It wasn't
like-
that exactly what.
no,
yeah, but that's,
right. They
yes.
they all look different.
Yes.
He's like on
Very
a cliff
close, yeah.
and about to step off of the cliff.
He was. Yes.
And it's a like, oh, you are at the edge of like a big decision, and you have to just leap of faith.
Yep.
Like you have
Hey,
to
out
just
of
do it.
curiosity, do you remember if there was a little dog on your fool's card or a frog?
Did he have a little guy?
Well, he had something, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
I didn't pay attention.
There's
to,
usually
yeah.
so usually the card represents like innocence, naive, not like naivete, but
That's
like
what she said,
like
yeah.
not necessarily having
The information.
information.
all the
Yeah.
information yet.
You just have to make the decision,
And you have to just
and jump.
you have
Yeah.
to just jump
Yeah.
and trust that you're gonna survive the fall.
And that's what she said.
Yeah.
She was like, "So you have a big decision on your hands," and I was like, "Yes, okay," but like I said, sitting back, I was like, "Okay, lots of people have big decisions, like
Yeah.
daily, like what?
Right.
Okay." Like a big decision is like, hey, do I get gas tonight? Or like,
That's
hey,
not
do
a
I-
big decision.
No, I mean, but right, like, do I go get groceries? Or like, hey, do I like quit my job and start a business? Like, right,
Right.
So it kind of was like, okay, sure. And like I said, I had no clue the level of like importance this card had. So like she keeps going,
We're
she
gonna
keeps going.
Backdoor analyze Harrison's reading for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of them that I can't specifically remember the name of.
That's
Now,
fine.
If I saw the card, I would
Right.
be like, that's the one.
The problem is we'd have to know what deck it is.
Exactly.
Because
But
all of them look different.
Well, the deck she was using was like a lot of Egyptian, like
Oh, it was probably a Thoth deck.
Probably.
yeah, sure,
Great.
that's the one.
Continue.
Could have been Hermetic Tarot too.
We don't have one of those in this house.
And
I
so
used to have one.
We have a golden tarot. My mom has another one, and then we have the
Chaos deck.
well, we have the Alleyman, the Good Omens, and the Rider-Waite Smith.
So I was just gonna look them up someday and like try to figure it out. Again.
Right.
But so I remember some of the names and everything
Uh-huh.
that she said because it was like, okay, that's very close to the one you already said.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote some of them down, but like, so I got in no specific order,
Right.
but I got the Fool first. I got the Moon, Two of Cups, King of Wands, Knight of Wands, and Knight of Pentacles.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool. That no freaking idea what any of that means.
That's really
right?
interesting that you don't remember any other numbers.
Well, so I got one that like the one she was most shocked by
Uh-huh.
was one where it was the gentleman in the card and everything was holding a staff with one hand facing towards it and then had a staff in his other hand behind him. And I was like, I don't know, and
So that's probably the Two of Wands.
possibly, but all I know was like when she put
Did
it
he
on
have
the
sticks
table,
on the ground?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good
Okay.
question. But when she put it on
That
the
sounds like
table,
a wands,
it
though.
jumped. All of these jumped out at her.
Correct.
Like every single one.
A lot of tarot readers read that way, where they don't actually pull cards.
And one of them, like 3 of them, fell out onto the floor at the same time.
Yeah.
She picked up all 3 and put them on the table, and she was like, "This is kind of wild."
What color
Um,
were your cards?
They were all kind of muted colors, like
Like, what was the base color of the card?
a lot of yellow, like a lot of yellow. But like it reminded me of, and this is gonna sound really weird, but like you remember the Prince of Egypt, like
Yes.
movie? like that kind of
that
graphic,
palette.
Yeah,
Okay.
That graphic style.
Like you saw the
cartoon,
not hieroglyphic, but the paintings on the walls and those types of things. It looked like somebody had just taken a picture and pulled it off.
Okay.
And so all that happens, and then she goes to another deck, which is like dragons. I think it was on the deck. She pulls those out, and one of them's like water. One of them was Twilight or something like that, and then the other one was like.
I wonder
orange.
if she was using a combination of tarot and oracle decks.
Maybe
I think so
like
because I had similar things happening, where it was one my original spread was one tarot deck, and then she pulled. They were more like square cards.
Yeah, like Oracle. Yeah,
So-
that was the second deck that I had. It was like an Oracle deck.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
To help provide.
the difference between tarot and oracle for Harrison is a tarot deck is a like set system.
Okay.
So it's like if you buy a tarot deck, you can expect it to have the major arcana
Yes.
in some regard. They may not be the exact same names, but it's going to have those cards, and
It'll
then
have
it's gonna
52 cards, and they will all have the same ideas.
right, and then no, it's more than 52. It's 52 of the suits, and then the major arcana.
Yep, you're right.
So then there's actually it's more than 52 because there's
78. I thought.
there's
Yeah.
page, knight. Yeah, it's a 78 card deck because there's page, knight, king, and queen. So there's 4 face
Ask
cards.
me how I know that. I don't remember.
Right,
But it
but
just popped in my
so
skull.
tarot cards. If you buy a tarot deck, pretty much, if you know how to read tarot, you can read it exactly the same no matter what tarot deck you're using.
Okay.
The only difference is sometimes different decks will have a little bit different interpretation.
Exact cards.
Which deck is it?
It's the Egyptian Art Nouveau tarot.
Ooh, cool.
Which
but
the cards were like, oh, that's
They're
yeah,
really pretty.
I love different
awesome,
decks.
right? Yeah.
An oracle deck, each one is completely different. And usually it's going to be like some kind of archetypes. So there's like a fairy deck. There's the animal spirits deck.
The
there's,
deck I got from Bailey was a fairy oracle.
Right.
Okay.
And so those will be like, oh, this is the youth. And that has a specific, or this is the nighttime, and that has a specific meaning. Like they're all completely different. So a lot of readers will do a tarot reading and then be like, now we're gonna pull from an oracle deck to get like pointed answers to help figure out what the hell this means.
Oh yeah.
So based on the like Twilight and whatever the other thing was, that sounds like an oracle
It's like
deck.
it was like water,
Water.
an orange dragon, and then
Yeah.
a Twilight dragon or something
like
that.
the Oracle of Dragons, I think is is an oracle deck that I know of. So
And
I need to
then
get an oracle deck. I've been talking about making one, but I haven't
Your
done it.
chaos deck is, or I guess
No,
not
it's a
really.
tarot deck. It
is
just
a
has
tarot
extra
deck.
cards.
and she pulled one more of the dragon, and then
Right.
she put it away, and then there was one other deck that she pulled,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "This is your final card, whatever, blah blah blah," and I went, "Okay, cool. Don't know what this is gonna mean," and she threw it out there, and again, still skeptic, still all of those things, but I was like, "That's weird." Like, this
I
is-
love when a skeptic says that's weird.
yeah, I was like, this is like everything was going through, and I've got no problem telling exactly what it is, but like everything was going through like work, basically like my job, right?
Right.
And so it's like
I was like,
okay,
I was gonna ask if that's what you thought it
Yeah.
was about because you've been having like,
oh yeah, because
Yeah.
like, right, to give small backstory, I went to school, I almost finished school, and then I joined the National Guard, and they basically kept deploying me and sending me every place, all over the place for like 6 years. Then I finally came back to school, finished school, and I finally got a job. And so here I am with my first job ever, basically, outside of the military, at 30. And, you know, I'm behind the wheel a little bit and those types of things. But she was sitting there and saying, like, hey, you know, this and you know, this is this and this is that. And, oh, well, you know, you have somebody that's really helping you with things. And then, you know, you're having a big decision soon. And this decision is not what you expected. This is very out of left field and does not pertain to what you do currently and what you're, you know, doing with your life. And you never thought this was actually going to be you, but now that you're into it, you very much enjoy. And I was like, okay, you gotta stop. Like, this is
Stop it! You're being too real.
Yeah, like
you're too right.
Like, I don't like this, right? Like, and of course, right? It could have meant 17 other things, but to me,
exactly,
that's what it meant, right?
Correct.
And so I was like,
that's how it works.
Yeah, I was like, this is
because
strange.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm also gonna say this.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe in tarot for it to be helpful for you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Because especially if someone is doing something kind of vague like that, whatever you pull from it is what you're thinking about anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that you're already chewing on that in the back of your mind. My tarot reading that I got for my birthday was very much like, this is happening very specifically right now. And I was like, I hate you. But like, it was not up for interpretation. It was very specific. And the vaguer ones, it is very much like, you know, horoscopes in the newspaper are like, Pisces, you're gonna have a good day today if you drink water in the morning. And so if I drink water in the morning, I'm gonna be like, what a great day I'm having because my horoscope said so.
Exactly.
Like, it's
almost
like
manifestation.
Your house,
right?
Like, you're still having a good
you're
day.
having a good day.
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of thing of like, you interpreted it a specific way, and that made you go like, oh, that's what this is about.
Absolutely. And see, that was the thing. So Mackenzie knows exactly what this is, and I don't think we need to say exactly the name, but I'm pretty sure both of y'all know exactly what this is as well.
Yeah.
Because
right?
you did say that in the car.
Yeah. Like multiple times.
You said it could have been two different things, and I was like, yeah, I can see either one of those being true.
And we can talk about it off the podcast.
Oh, no,
that way you
absolutely.
can actually clarify 100% for me, because it could be a couple of things in my brain too.
But also, like, if the listeners want to know, like, you can ask.
Right.
But I have no problem telling you, but I'm just not going to put it out there in case.
On the internet for
know?
forever. Yeah.
Right.
And so, but all that to say, right, like, it was definitely weird. I went in, like, totally going, come on.
Right.
This is going to be like me playing poker. What the hell?
God, I wish we had a camera on him.
Yeah,
Faces
that
were
was
really
pretty
funny.
good.
At some point, we'll do that. But
God, it was so funny.
But all that to say, it'll be the most replayed moment of the episode too. But like I said, it was very, like, Seance. Didn't really change my mind on it. Didn't really affect anything. The tarot reading, I was like, okay, this could have been as generic as possible.
But it was a little too pointed.
But it was a little too pointed at this particular
instance
section. Yeah, so
I love that.
I was like, now, if this was, I'll be honest, if this was a year ago, almost to the day, right, it would have been, me getting out of the guard.
Right.
Right? Like 6 years of being with guys that I've been with for 6 different years.
Right.
Different deployments, different places, different everything.
Right.
Through the situations we've been in. Huge change.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, that would have been that.
It would have meant something completely different a year
Right.
ago.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, is this thing going to happen within the next 6 months? No. But it's definitely going to happen between 6 months and a year.
Right.
Like, it's going to be, it's wild. But am I taking this with a grain of salt as well, saying, like, you know, do I still have to say yes to this decision, and will it do all of these things? Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, it could go horribly wrong, right? But it's like, hey, take your brain out of it. Like, just let things happen. Like,
Right.
if they happen, they'll fall into place.
And
If they
that's why
don't,
the Fool was the
great.
first card.
Exactly, right?
You
So I was like,
you can't think about it. You just gotta jump, buddy.
and because I did this outside of the group, but I was like, I went home and I looked it up. I was like, what's, like, one of the crazier cards you can get from, you know, like, a tarot reading? The first thing, the Fool. I was like, great, that was my first card.
Like, literally, when the Fool comes up, it's like, pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention to everything that comes after this. Pay attention to this. Like, this is a big deal.
This is
That's
an
also-
emphasis.
like,
when that
They're
card,
putting it in bold, underline, and italics.
and it's in like size 30 font. Like my tarot reader, when I got the Fool, she was like, I hope you're listening. And I was like, shut up.
Say it quieter.
Say it quieter.
Yeah. But like I said, like, I'm saying this with, like I said, grain of salt, but I would be interested in trying to possibly do another like reading at some point
I'll
to
read you.
see.
I'll read your ass.
To see
I'll read
if
your
the
ass for
same
filth.
things. Yeah. To see if the same things are popping up, or if it's just.
And I'll do it with my regular one, not my
something
mean
else.
one.
So like,
Yeah, because
yeah.
it also
never know.
depends on the person doing your
Oh
tarot.
yeah, and especially like the lady didn't know me, right? So like,
Right.
she could have, and granted, I'll be honest, the way she was saying things very vaguely, right? Like it was kind of like the seance, right?
Right.
It was like, hey, it could mean
It could be this.
Well,
it could be that.
this, right? And the descriptions she was giving,
I think
were
it's
kind of vague too.
I think it's also important, especially for people listening to us, to remember this is a 40-person event.
Oh yeah,
And they were
Right.
reading multiple people over and over. There was a lot of energy of most people didn't know each other. This was
Right.
a lot of the first people's time in the house. So when they're
And I bet you it was a lot of people's first time getting a tarot reading,
yeah,
too.
Right.
so they're gonna read. If it's ever your first time and it's not a one-on-one reading, like in a one-on-one closed kind of session, you're probably gonna get a more generic reading because
They're
also
not looking to read you for filth.
they're wanting you to
They're
have
also
have
like,
an
I don't want to
enjoyable-
make this person cry.
Yeah, like they're not.
There's no curtain around us.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like I don't want to go too emotionally deep into this, and
Unless you're Misty and you're reading Kris.
and then
Exactly.
Yeah.
but like I think in a way Kris kind of was like there was consent to that
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I knew what I was walking
You've
into.
also had multiple readings.
versus
Yeah.
somebody like Harrison who doesn't believe in it,
I'm
has
a
never
baby.
been has never been read before, all of those things.
Right.
I think it's important for people to remember the kind of event that we were at. Whereas if we were to do a reading, if we were to go to them one-on-one, it may
go get
read
individual
completely
readings, yeah.
differently,
Right.
and it may be less vague of her. Because also it could have been a very pointed reading, and she was choosing to describe it in a more vague way.
Right.
Like
Mm-hmm.
there's some of those things
'Cause
that
there's
we
also
just
another
need to
thing-
keep in mind.
There's one of those things that it's like, did you tell her that you'd never had a tarot reading done before
I did,
at the
yes.
beginning? Okay. Did you tell
I
her
did,
that you
yes.
were kind of like meh about it, or just that you've never had it done?
See,
I think she could tell that he was kind of meh about it.
See, like,
So-
I was sitting there. I had my arms crossed.
Oh, so you were an
Oh,
asshole.
so-
Got it.
Yeah, so you knew.
No, so I
You
was
weren't an asshole,
I was
but
sitting-
yeah.
I was sitting back and I was just like comfortable, right?
Right.
And she's standing there, or she's sitting there for like several, I would say minutes, right? To like even just get the deck, to get the card, to all that.
Right.
So I'm like, at this point, I'm not doing the seance hands on the table thing, right? And I'm not putting them in my lap and looking like a weirdo. So I was like, okay, I'll just cross, right? Like, and it's not
Right.
like
I was joking. You're not an asshole.
no, but you know what I mean, right? Like it was still, I was still smiling, I was still looking at the cards, looking at her, those types
Right.
of things,
Mhm.
and she's just asking me questions, right?
Right.
She's like, hey, how are you doing tonight? Well, did you have fun? Did you do the seance yet? Like type of stuff,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, one of the last questions, she goes, is this your first tarot reading? And I said, yes. She was like, oh, cool. And as she says cool, now this was not like a Hollywood moment or anything, but it was like as she says cool, the card flies up and almost in front of her face and comes back down and lands in her lap.
And that was the Fool.
yeah. I
Cute.
was like,
Yeah.
this is weird.
The deck went, oh, it's your
yeah.
first time?
Yeah. I got you, homie. Like, let me fuck you up now.
Because
yeah.
here's the other thing. If she knew it was your first time and she could probably read your energy as being like, not
Laissez-faire.
dismissive, but just like not really like super into it.
Oh yeah.
There is a like point where you're being too specific and people are like
Get anxious
well,
about
anxious
it.
or just being like, fuck you. Like you're just
Yeah.
making shit up, right? Because
Because they don't want
You're,
to admit
you're
that
making
you're-
assumptions about me
you're making assumptions about me. And
that
so
are
that-
correct, but I don't
it-
like that.
It could be that she like, because here's the thing. If those of you who've never met Harrison, if you look at this man,
You're
you
probably
could go,
better off
that's
too.
a cop or that's a military guy.
Also true.
Like he is former military or former police.
Yeah.
He probably has a degree. Maybe it took him a bit. Like if you meet this guy, you can make a lot of assumptions, just like every person you meet.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of probably accurate assumptions about them on how they
Right.
carry themselves, how they present themselves at a table. Like
the
sitting
kind
there,
of clothes
like,
that they wear,
your
the way they hold
comfortable
themselves.
position is guarded.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
you sit with your arms crossed a lot. That's not a read. It's just a fact
Yeah.
of who you are as a person because you're former military. Like it's just a thing. So she probably was like, I could read this man for filth.
You know,
I
and,
shan't.
and because
yeah, probably.
and because you were uncomfortable in this
Yeah.
situation, because like I know, like about halfway through my reading, whenever things started getting uncomfortable, like I definitely like
But the other thing was,
and then I had to think about it. I was like, take your arms apart.
See, like, for me, she was also asking me questions like during. She was like, hey, you know, how do you feel about this? Like, how, you know,
how's this going?
Card, like that type of thing, right?
She's probably going, I need to pivot?
Yeah.
Right.
And she's
like, am I hurting your feelings?
After she had dropped that one card I was explaining, and I can't remember what it was, but we'll figure it out. But
I'll find imagery of that deck, and we can go through
staff and anything. Like, she had a reaction on the Fool. Don't get me wrong, right?
Right.
Like, obviously.
But
went, like, on this reaction,
you like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward?
Yeah, exactly.
That was her reaction to the Fool.
100%.
You like Krabby Patties.
She paused for, like, a good amount. I was like, okay.
It's so funny to me.
Like, all of that to say, this one card, she paused more on. She was like, oh, wow, okay. And, like, put it down, kept her hand on it for a couple of seconds, like, let go, kind of held her, hand out from her chest, like, over the table type of thing. I was like,
that's one of those, how do I react?
How
do I react for this man?
Tell him this?
And see, I'm looking at it, and, again, not knowing much, but knowing a little bit, I was like, okay, is this, like, the devil?
Is this really good or really bad?
Yeah, I was like, is this devil, death, tower, like, you know, some horribly terrible, you know, whatever, right? From my understanding, at least. And so I was like,
the devil and the tower are pretty not great. Death's okay.
Yeah. And see, I was like, I really don't want to see this, right? And she goes, huh? Have you been struggling with making a decision on something that you just don't know, like, where to go? And I went, like, I was looking down at the cards the entire time.
You went,
and I looked,
maybe.
I squinted my eyes, and I looked up at her. And
you went, did you call my mom?
Yeah, I was like, and I went, straight up, like, I didn't mean to, but I went, maybe? And, like, I kind of scrunched my face, kind of like, you bitch, like, in a moment.
Literally,
right? Yeah, I was like,
who told you?
I was like, straight up, my feelings on the inside was like, do you want to fight? Like, kind of moment, right?
That's
like,
fighting words.
Like,
hey, the tarot's doing its fucking job.
I will come across this table.
For filth.
Like, I will come across this table, and I will use this chair on you. Like, it will become WWE night right now.
Amazing.
And so I was like, maybe? And she goes, okay. You know, kind of
like, she was like, shit.
I touched a nerve.
And she, like, was straight up looking me in the eye, and she was like, okay, like, very gently, like, all right, like,
okay,
let's go on to the next one,
buddy.
psycho. Like,
take a breath, bud.
Yeah. And so she kept shuffling.
Can I get you a juice?
Yeah. She kept shuffling, and she tried to, like, re-explain the card multiple times before the next card came out, and I was like, yeah, it's cool, fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
And then it was multiple cards at a time from that point on, right? So it was like 3 cards. I think that was the 3rd card. And then it was like 2 cards, 3 cards, like type of stuff, right? So I was like, okay. But all that to say, it came back out at the very end where she was like, can I just, you don't have to answer, but, like, can I ask a question? I went, sure. And I realized at that moment that, like, every card she had put out, she was like, so how do you feel? Cool. Great. Yes. Like, I was giving one-word answers, which was not opening the door for her at all.
Correct.
Right? And so she was like, great, it's going to be this douchebag all night type thing, right? And so at the end of it, she was like, so have you been, you know, struggling with? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, do you have someone, like, that's supporting you with this and helping you with this in your life? And I went,
my wife.
I was like, yes. But it, like, we actually talked about it and everything. And I was like, I immediately thought of that person. And she went, yeah, like, it could have. And before she even said anything more, I was like, but the issue is they're not super connected, right? Like, they're absolutely in support. And they're here for help. They're here for that. But it's not in the same way. I was like, that's the only card that, like, kind of threw me off for a second. And I was like, man, I guess I gotta, like, think about that one and where that one would connect. But every other card was immediately like,
it's this.
that's one.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, like,
I had one of those in my reading.
It was
I
wild.
was like, I don't know who the fuck this is.
Yeah. Like, it was wild. Like I said, going into the seance thing, still don't believe it really, honestly.
Right.
Like, just truly. And then the tarot reading, I'm 50-50, right? Like,
okay.
I'm like, okay, that reading for sure was taking shots at me.
Okay.
But, like, I would have to have multiple other times and occurrences for it to be like, yep, okay, this is some type of...
There's something behind
right?
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, coming into it, didn't believe anything. Coming out of it, partially believe some. But that's
cool.
about it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I love that.
Well, that's all for me. You're a temporary weirdo, full-time snack goblin, and part-time ghost bait. I survived the stories, avoided possession, I think, and only mildly offended one cryptid and a haunted microwave. Thanks for letting me haunt your headphones. Until next time, stay spooky, stay weird, and always bring snacks for the spirits.
Thanks to Harrison for hanging out with us today.
Thanks, Harrison, for coming
Thanks,
and hanging out.
Well, I think that's all you need to know about our seance adventure. Tune in next week for, I don't even know what at this point.
Who knows?
Literally.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.